What's up guys? In this video I'm going to show you how to make a sub riser in FL Studio. Sub riser is the type of sound that you might hear in bass jackers tracks, a variety of tracks where you hear a sub bass rising to a full octave. And let's get started. So we're going to want to make a basic sub bass and maybe make it rise up over the course of 8 bars or maybe even 16 bars depending on what you're trying to do. Now, this can work very well with building up excitement right before the drop. And you do want to use it carefully because I usually recommend not having tons of bass right before your drop, and that way you can have a bit of space, or maybe you can high pass or just have some tiny bit of space right before your drop, because if you have too much bass before your drop and your drop is lacking that bass that you created, it can kind of be a bit underwhelming. So nonetheless, let's get into this. Let's make a sub bass. We're going to be using Massive, and this is just a new preset. Let's go ahead and load up one of my favorites, the sine square. So basic wave right here. Alright, so I'm going to bring it down. And how you know when it's too low, like what is too low, right? Sometimes me as a beginner, I didn't understand the concepts of frequency charts. And what I recommend, I'll link below a website that will show you the frequencies along with the associated key. So like D sharp minor, D sharp, which key it is, E, what key it is. But what you can do is just toss in a wave like this, pitch it down 24, and go to your piano roll. And this is how we'll know what is the lowest note that we want to hit. Because I recommend staying in the range of D sharp for EDM, D sharp to like a maximum of A. And you might ask why, because this is just my personal experience. Most of the tracks in this range, and this is why you see big room tracks, EDM tracks, a lot of them in the F, F sharp, G, because the sub bass hits real hard in the clubs in that frequency. So this way we'll know what is too low. If we take D sharp, yeah, this isn't what we want. You can see it's kind of crumbling at this point. Now, if this is a desired effect, if you're doing like a kind of like a sub rumble or something after a drop as like a break, I've done that a couple times. You can get some cool effects. But we'll stick to what we're doing here. What we'll do is we'll put it on F sharp. All right. And we'll make it 4 bars, just like so. Let's come back to the playlist. And we can rename this to sub. And to do that, I just pressed F2 to rename this. Okay, you can see how it's trailing like that. So in Massive, you want to follow along here. Bring this up so the filter is at full volume, filter 1. In envelope 4, let's reduce the attack, bump up the level. And sub basses, be careful. You don't want a little click or like a little tail that pops right out. So usually be generous with the release. But by that I mean you can always fix that with low pass filters, envelope, volume automations and whatnot. So we don't really need any of these for this purpose. Alright, so we got like a basic sub bass here. Now let's see how long it is in regards to this. Yeah, okay, we might want it to make it 8 bars. So let's make it 8 bars. Cool. Alright. And let's just put in a fill-in just to kind of, for shits and giggles, just get an idea of the intended effect. put in whatever. Sure, whatever. Let's just leave that there for now. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna come to Massive and assign a macro 1 to the pitch and bump it up 12 like so. And right now what I would recommend doing is route your sub bass to a free insert. In this case it's on insert 1, and go ahead and attach some sort of EQ and take a look. You can see this little click here. I wouldn't recommend that for the sake of building up an effect. So what you can do is create a low pass filter, a high cut. Be generous with this one, maybe 24 or 48 dB. And whatever, we can leave it there, that sounds good. Depending on how much mid frequencies you have going on, you might want to put it in that 200 range. So we'll leave it in the 200 range. We'll just say 200. Cool. So now we have like a smooth, silky sub bass, very clean one. Now let's go ahead and move macro 1. We'll create an automation clip. And what we'll do here, just play this back. It's not bad. What we'll do is we'll add a kind of like a little dance clap to build it up. Cool, that's fine. That sounds fine. What I also did in my track Light It Up was I went one note further. So instead of 8 bars, I made it 9 bars, and I made the sub bass kind of drop back down into the drop. So as if it was like building up and then right back into the root note of the bass, into the drop. And you can always experiment. Like I said, how you want to kill some of that bass, what you can do is have it rise up, but if you don't want it to be so boomy going into the drop, you can designate another insert or a filter through the synth, or of course in an effect. So we'll add the high pass low pass filter, turn that up, so this is essentially no effect. And what we'll do is assign another macro to the high pass. Maybe just to get rid of that sub bass, just to make it very thin. And we will dump this on the playlist, and let's play this back. And what we'll do is we will let it rise normally, and then maybe before the drop we can have it get high past a tad and see how that is. Yeah, so you can see, you can kind of build some excitement like that very easily. It fills in the lower segments of your frequencies, the 300 range and lower, or of course you could mix in more mid harmonics, because the waveform that I'm using is very basic. You could have definitely experiment with this like sine square, sine triangle, or some of the other ones. So that's sounding cool. Let's see what other effects we can do with this one. So we got the sine square. If you want to give it some more drive, you could definitely just bump up a little feedback in there. Tiny bit of feedback. Wouldn't recommend adding anything like these here. I'll show you which effect I would maybe recommend. And make sure that your voicing is in mono, such that you're getting just a single note triggered, like so. Monophone, always, that's fine. That's what we want. And the other automations that I would probably recommend, you could definitely experiment with some LFOs on the wavetable or on the filter itself. And we'll leave these off. What we can do is we could even make a... I wouldn't recommend doing reverb here, because reverb is going to carry through into your EQ. Same with these ones. Same with flanger and chorus. Maybe perhaps dimension expander. Dimension expander is a way to just spread it across the stereo field in a more simplistic way, as opposed to using chorus or as opposed to using multiple voices. But we'll leave all that untouched. And what you could do even is maybe even experiment with noise. Let's see how that sounds. Let's go ahead and turn off our fab filter. And what we'll do is we'll put a low pass filter on filter 1 to give the same effect that fab filter was offering. Give it a tiny bit of resonance. Let's try with the daft. Cool. Now let's route white noise to oscillator 2, or sorry, filter 2. And we can even add an LFO to this to experiment. So we're taking a step further. You don't have to do this. I'm usually content with just doing a simple sub bass. But again, this is just experimentation. We're going to attach the macro 1 to the color of the noise, and you can see we have LFO5 attached to low pass filter that has the sub bass, and LFO5 also to the amplitude of white noise, which is being routed to just filter 2 to kind of give it some love here, and so that it doesn't mesh with the sub bass, we will add a high pass filter, and to make sure that it's not giving sub frequencies, let's just listen to the white noise. Cool, and let's give it a little bit of shine with the EQ. So let's add some high shelf. Okay, that's a pretty decent amount of high shelf added to that. Let's bring down this color so that it automates with macro 1. Let's go ahead and turn back on oscillator 1. And that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and let this play, see what happens. Curious. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to modulate the rate. We'll create a third macro. And let's see when too much is, because you could of course spam this, but it's going to sound ridiculous at the very high rates. So let's see. So that's around 3 o'clock. That is, of course, modulating the rate. And we can bring it down. So it's kind of like starting, whoa, 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 and then it's building up. Building up. Don't be afraid to always sing with your voice. That's one thing I've listened heavily to Mr. Belt and Weasel, how they hum and haw and sing to their what they want to do for their breaks. So let's see how this sounds. That's pretty cool. You know, I never experimented with just doing the noise. Of course, we could switch with something else. And you could also introduce another oscillator to give you maybe another effect. Maybe you don't have enough risers in your project. So if you don't have the risers, you might want to add something like a additional saw wave or something above an octave. Sorry, above an octave. So let's see. That's cool. Now let's turn off this and turn off the noise, see what it sounds like. Cool. So very basic. You guys can take it to another level by adding more customization. But that's pretty much it. If you want to make a sub riser, I usually recommend doing like 8 bars, 9 bars, and to cut right into your drop. It gives kind of a level, kind of builds excitement building into your drop, especially if you add a lot of percussion, claps with reverb, take this clap, high pass it, and this is probably what I would do to the clap. I'll show you. I would probably add maybe kind of like a low pass, or sorry, high pass around here. And maybe a reverb as well. So something like that. Cool. So I hope you guys liked this video. Actually, below I will link you guys to the project to this. You'll be able to download this project. I'm going to take out the plugins like the EQ that I added here, and you actually won't need the FabFilter Pro. But I'm going to link you to the project. So if you guys are using FL Studio 12, 32-bit, or 64-bit, please feel free to download it below. I'll post it on my Patreon public to both my supporters and anybody else, so you don't have to be a Patreon supporter to download this. I'm getting really interested in starting my own sound presets to give you guys kind of like the electro basses that I worked on in the past and to get those in your hands. So I'm excited to work on more bass patches. And comment below, let me know what you guys do, what your tricks are for building excitement before the drop. Maybe what you guys do for risers. I think in the next video I'll show you how I do a a vocal riser and how you can build some excitement, automating the pitch of a continuous vocal, and some cool tricks you can use to sample to create your original content, even from other people's stems. So I'll show you how I do that in the future. Anyways, comment below, let me know what you guys thought. The download links are below in the video description. If you like this video, please smash that button, give me a like. Make sure you're subscribed for more content. I'm going to be working on much more tutorials in the future. And nonetheless, keep making them gains, and I'll see you guys later. Much love. Take care.
Vegan, smoothie!